I just did that with no warm-up. So, the Nordic Curl, which I just did, is, in my opinion, the toughest leg exercise there is, and there's a reason why it has its reputation. And I didn't learn how to do this until I was about 50, and I'll be 53 in 4 or 5 days. 5 days. And so I just wanted to go over what it took to get to the point where I could do the Nordic Curl. Fortunately, first thing you need to know is you have to have the prerequisite strength. And actually, you know, I'll go back. And this is how I learned. So in this 2019, I was 49, and I wanted to take on the challenge of the Nordic Curl. And I realized I had a perfect setup. And so you also need a setup, okay? So you need a good setup. And in my case, my setup is my rack that's weighted down with 400 or 500 pounds of plates on top of its own weight. And what it happens to have is a crossbar on the lower end. And it just, as luck would have it, it fits perfectly over the back of my ankle. So it totally is a firm placement. Because why I say firm is important, because when you even attempt the Nordic Curl, you feel extremely vulnerable, and you want something that is beyond rock solid, something that's not going to move. Because even though you're not going to flip over or fall or whatever, you just want to have that confidence in whatever supporting you or holding you is not going to let go. And so this is what I did. And to go back when I said you need the prerequisite strength, that's not exactly true. You obviously need some really strong hamstrings. But more importantly, you need to deaden the nerves in your kneecaps and that part, the back of your ankles. Because in the first few times you even get into position 1, which is sitting on your knees and having your ankles held, it's extremely painful. A lot of people don't have the ability to sit like this, even with a pad. And on a side note, it took me a while to find this pad, and what it is it's a Husky brand one from Home Depot, and it's 2 inches thick, and it is amazing. It's all of $14.95. I recommend this to every single person who does any kind of exercise that needs a pad, which is almost everyone. And for $14.95, you cannot beat this, especially since there's a Home Depot everywhere now. So get yourself one of these. And you know, I learned how to do it on a thinner pad that's not as plush, but this is absolutely ideal for this. So back to deadening your nerves. The first part of your progression into the Nordic Curl is deadening those nerves and just getting your ankles and your knees into feeling that kind of pain. And again, this is a fine line of discomfort and straight up pain. But I don't know if anyone's ever broken anything getting to this progression. It's just painful, and you just don't have the strength, and that's the limiter there. So that said, in position 1 is on your knees and with your ankles held. And what I learned, and when I first started doing this, is like, oh my God, it's like, I'm only leaning forward just a little bit. And this was excruciating. It was more pain than it was a muscle contraction issue. But like in this position, I'm leaning forward a few degrees, and you can feel my hamstrings contracted. And what you need to do is just basically, in the first few weeks of doing that, is deaden those nerves. And the reason why I say that is because when I undertook this, I believe it was in 2019, the summer of 2019, I didn't want to hurt myself because I was racing and everything else. And I tried it that winter, that fall, end of season 2019, end of racing season, And it just hurt too much. I was just like, this is impossible. I cannot do this. And what happened was, I think I turned 50, and that's when I undertook it. And I gave myself 30 days to learn how to do that. And those 30 days happened to coincide with the month of November. And so I think I probably posted it on Instagram. When I learned to do it, it was like the 28th of November or something like that. I might have missed the cutoff of the date that I wanted to give myself by a couple days or something. But I was able to do it, and in those 30 days, what I did was deaden those nerves. For the first few days, I was just basically getting used to this position one. And what I recommend is having something to fall onto. Me being who I am, I didn't do that. I did use a band at first, just to try to get past, once I got the nerves deadened. Let me get something like here. A green. Oh, that's good. I did put a band. Oh, I wasn't actually prepared for this part. I did get a band and used it to kind of support myself into the fall. Into the fall. And worked to that, just to kind of get used to that. But what I would recommend to people, and that was just to get those nerves deadened. What I would recommend to people is having something, a box or a stool or something to fall onto. In fact, wait 1 second. Magic of pausing the film. This is a sand dune stepper, but more importantly, it is a lot of padding. And what I recommend to people is using this to learn how to fall and supporting yourself as long as you can until you can't. And ideally catching yourself and then pushing yourself up. And what you're doing is working on that eccentric muscles and being able to hold that tension. But like I said, the biggest limiter really is just getting past position one, and I can see why that stops a lot of people. Because it does feel like, this does not feel right. Something is going to break on me. And that's why I gave up on it the first time around. When I gave it a college try, and it was just like, this does not feel right. This hurts. This can't be good for you. But like I said, when I went back to it and gave myself 30 days, I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, but I said I'm going to do it for 30 days. And the schedule I gave myself was to work on it every other day for like three reps, three sets, 3 sessions per week. No more than that, because that's a lot of strain on tendons and everything else in building that strength up. But one day, like I said, after Thanksgiving, I just came down in here and I gutted it out. And I was shocked that the progression happened at the that last week or so. It went from, I don't know, I want to say this to all the way down here. And this was all unsupported, and it was strict. But again, the progression from like a 75% to the full one was very, very quick. It was over a week, because most of the work is leading up to that. Being able to hold this tension at this point where it just hurts like a dickens and feels like everything's breaking on you, and be able to come up and then be able to repeat it. And keep in mind, I only do this when I do full reps of the Nordic curl. I do about 3 sets of 4, and that's plenty. And the reason why I'm doing this video is I see pictures and videos of myself from the side, and I realize how developed my hamstrings are. You know, obviously I'm a cyclist, and a lot of the exercise I do work on that, but the single largest contributor to that hamstring muscle development is doing the Nordic curls. Because what I tell people is the Nordic curl is the biggest bang for your buck as far as an exercise, but the learning curve is so steep, most people will never get to utilize it. So things like, I'll show you later, is like a hamstring curl with a glider or carpet sliders. It's probably the best thing for most people, but to get Instagram ready, this is pretty dope. Thanks for watching.